Nom, 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 nom. It's very hot, so you have to look after your dogs and give them lots of kisses. Hello everybody, welcome back to Tom Reads Things. My name is Tom. I hope you're all very, very, very well. So, I've got 2 weeks off at the moment and it's bloody brilliant. I have been on holiday to Norfolk. Some of you may have seen my Norfolk vlog that I did recently. Me, Mark and the dogs went away to Norfolk and that was lovely. We stayed at my mum's place down there and just had a lovely time really. Ate loads of amazing food and read loads of books. That is why I am doing a two-parter July wrap-up because I've had a stonking reading month in terms of like the amount that I've read. I'm quite a slow reader, so I don't usually tend to get through that many books each month. And actually, I don't have that much time to read normally when I'm working. I just read for a bit on the train in the morning, a bit on the train on the way home, and then a bit when I get home in the evening. But because I'm having in the middle of kind of 2 weeks off, I've had loads of time to read. The books I've read have been a real mixture. I've either really loved them or I've really not liked them at all. So, or kind of felt a bit indifferent towards them. So that's why I'm doing a kind of two-parter July wrap-up for you lucky things. So yes, without further ado, should we crack on? So these are in no particular order. I thought I would start with the first couple of books that I kind of felt a bit indifferent towards and then end on a high note with a book that I absolutely loved. So the first book that I want to talk about is The Girl at the Door by Veronica Ramo. So this follows the story of a husband and wife and they live on the idyllic island of Midden and where everything's kind of perfect and the husband is a professor at the university there and the wife is pregnant with his child. One day, the lady receives a knock at the door and in front of her is this woman who claims that her husband, the lady's husband, who lives at the house, who claims that her husband assaulted her when they were together previously. And the story kind of goes on from there, looking at whether the community will believe the professor or believe the lady who is accusing him of assault. It's kind of described as the first post-Weinstein novel and the first kind of post-Me Too movement novel. Because it looks at the woman who is claiming that he assaulted her is claiming this many years after the event happened. And she, when questioned, she kind of says that she didn't realise that it was assault at the time. But having looked back, she realises that it was assault. And it kind of explores the reaction of the community, whether people believe the professor or whether people believe the girl at the door. I felt like as the first kind of post-Weinstein novel, first post-Me Too movement novel, this could have done a lot more. I think it focused on too much on experimental writing rather than actually delving into the psyche of these people and the reactions of a community based around the claims that the lady is making. None of the characters in this are named, and I kind of found that a bit pointless. I just think it was an attempt for the author to be a bit different and a bit experimental. I didn't really understand why she did that. I think it was, if anything, it was just a bit confusing and annoying, really. I think a lot more could have been done with it. It's only very short. It's only 200 pages. I think she could have delved much more into the subject matter of, when these things happen, who do you believe? Like there was no evidence for or against whether it happened or not really in this book. So how does the community react? How do people choose who to believe? How does it all work out? And I think actually she could have explored that a lot more, but actually I think she just focused on experimental writing too much, and that it was a bit of a letdown for me in that respect. So yeah, there's that. The next book that I want to talk about is Murmur by Will Eaves. So I was really looking forward to this book. This takes its inspiration from a figure of Alan Turing, who was the acclaimed mathematician, and his legal arrest and chemical castration for being gay, basically. I was really interested to find out more about this man, even though this is just a fictionalized version of it, and really interested to find out how Will Eves would explore this quite difficult subject matter. Unfortunately, this didn't really live up to any kind of expectation for me. It was weird because the writing I found so experimental and so kind of avant-garde almost, not really avant-garde, more like poetry in some parts, that when I finished it, I put the book down and Mark said, "Oh, that's Murmur by Will Eves. What did you think? What was it about? Who were the characters?" And I couldn't tell him. I had no idea what it was about. I had no idea who the characters were, and I had no idea what it was really trying to say. I just read the words. None of them went in, and that was it. So yeah, I was really disappointed by this. I am going to read more of Will Eves' work because Simon at Savage Reads has said to me that actually his other works are less experimental, so I think I might get on a bit better with those. But yeah, Murmur by Will Eves didn't really live up to the expectations, but maybe that's just me. I could tell the writing was good, I could tell the writing was beautiful in some places, but just not for me. So I'm sure others will really like this if you like that subject matter, and if you like your fiction to be a lot more literary or experimental, then do pick this up. I think you would probably really enjoy it. By the way, Mark's doing some work in the garden today. It's very exciting. We're moving a fence. We're extending the sides of our garden so the dogs have more room to run about in. Should we have a little interlude and go and see what he's doing? So eventually we're going to be moving this gate back towards here.
This gate is going to go to there. Yeah.
So we'll have all of this as extra space.
The garden, yeah. And eventually it will be flower beds here, raised beds, or we'll have vegetables and stuff in. This will be turfed, probably with a pathway coming through or something. Not sure at the moment, but yeah. Stuck on the first side of.
Look at that hanging basket. The next book that I want to talk about annoyed the hell out of me. It was so annoying. It was so full of itself. I just couldn't bear it. And that is The Standing Chandelier by Lionel Shriver. So I'd heard great things about this book from Lauren's channel, Lauren in the Books, but I just found it completely self-indulgent, and a story that she told a story very basically that has been told a million times before. If you rather than waste time reading this book, just go and watch My Best Friend's Wedding. It's basically exactly the same as that. It's just the characters are really annoying in this and completely self-indulgent and full of themselves. So it basically follows the story of a man and a woman, and they are best friends. They've been in on-off relationship a little bit during their youth, but they've been best friends for like 20 years. And all of a sudden the man meets a woman that he wants to marry, and the woman that he wants to marry decides that she can't marry him with him still being friends with this other woman. And the story kind of goes on from there, and it's just... It's so self-indulgent. It's a story that's been told a million times. She doesn't do anything interesting with it. She comes up with this idea of this standing chandelier, or this lampshade that the female best friend makes, and she doesn't really do anything with it. I don't know what it's supposed to symbolise, or it really annoyed me. However, I do know that other people really do like this book. So, I mean, it is, again, really short, so maybe it is worth picking up if you're interested in that, but my recommendation would be just watch My Best Friend's Wedding instead. You'll probably get a lot more out of it. So with that out the way, the last book that I would like to talk about is one that I absolutely adored. It's definitely going to be, at the end of the year, on my top favourite lists of books that I've read so far this year, and it was my first ever buddy read, and I'm so glad that I did it as a buddy read, and that is As Meat Loves Salt by Maria McCann. So I did this as a buddy read with Simon from Savage Reads, and I think it was a perfect book to do as a buddy read because it's so long that you could, it's like 600 pages, something like that, but the writing is really small in it, almost like a Dickens novel. And because it's really long, you can get into the real kind of depth of discussions about it, which Simon and I did, which was really interesting, and it's a great experience as my first ever buddy read, so thanks very much, Simon. So I DNF'd this earlier in the year, so I was 100 pages ahead of Simon, but he soon caught up and finished before me. And it follows the story of Jacob Cullen, who is a educated man who falls on hard times and becomes a servant in an aristocratic household. It's set in 1640 in England at the time of the Civil War. He gets married and escapes for the kind of Cavalier invasion to the aristocratic home, and him and his wife become separated, and he then joins the Cromwell's army. And in the army, he meets a character called Ferris, who he develops a very strong relationship with. And the story really is about their relationship over the next kind of couple of years. The story goes that it's mixed between battle scenes, and it's also mixed between their time in London, where they are staying with Ferris's aunt. I absolutely loved this book. It's really gritty. It's really true to the time without being overly historical, if you see what I mean. It's not constantly mentioning things about 1640. You just really feel by the style of the writing that you're in 1640 with these characters, especially during their time in London. One of the characters that I really like in this book is the character of Bex, who is a maidservant at Ferris's aunt's house in London. She kind of plays quite a pivotal role, and I really like it when people from the lower classes in these kind of historical fiction novels play a more pivotal role and hold the fate of the more aristocratic characters in their hands. I think that's really, really great. One thing that Simon and I picked up on whilst reading this book is the fact that we read the character of Jacob to be black. A lot of times the Miriam McCann refers to his race or his skin colour. And one thing we found quite problematic is that often his skin colour is synonymous with his temper and his savagery almost. I know other people read it slightly differently, and that's great. That's what makes, interpretation of books wonderful, doesn't it, really? But yeah, so we found that a bit strange. And my God, it was brilliant. It could have done with some editing, but still, I absolutely loved this. If you're into historical fiction, then do pick this up. It's well worth the read. I really, really, really enjoyed it, and you can expect to see this on my list of favourite books at the end of the year. So thank you very much for joining me. I'll be uploading part 2 of my wrap up at the end of this month. I'm also going to be doing we're going to Burghley House tomorrow, which was the kind of the home of Lord Burghley, who was one of Queen Elizabeth I's favourites. So I'm really excited to go around there. So I'll take you with me. I'll do a vlog of that, which you can expect later in the week. And also, I'm hopefully before the end of this week, maybe next week, I'm going to be doing a channel update where I'm going to talk about some of the videos that I'm going to be doing in the future, kind of where my channel's going. I've been on BookTube for near enough 6 months now, so it's time for a bit of a refresh, I think. So yeah, look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks, bye. What did you think of the standing chandelier? You couldn't bear it.